Over a year ago, we reviewed the Fanatec ClubSport pedals V3, and we're not only impressed by the pedals, but also by these little green and red cylinders that came with the pedals and went into the brake as part of a pre-production brake performance kit. Well, finally, the brake performance kit is out for $29.95 and euros, and we get to review it. Sim racing chassis in this video is the Next Level Racing GT Ultimate featuring the new motion platform V3. Learn more at nextlevelracing.com. The ClubSport Pedals V3 Brake Performance Kit, say that 3 times fast, comes in a very neat and tidy little box with all the pieces clearly labeled and easy to follow instructions. The kit arrives with 3 red and 3 green elator being the name of the elastomer material, springs, 1 polyurethane foam spring, and a tube of lithium grease. Of the 6 red and green elator springs, 4 are 13 millimeters in diameter, and the other 2 are 12 millimeters in diameter. The goal of the brake performance kit is to increase the pressure and reduce the travel of the brake pedal. And as Fanatec points out very nicely on their website, is because the body memorizes muscle tension better than position. So in theory, at the very least, the brake performance kit should help you with more consistent braking, going with more a pressure system, even though the V3s are already load cell pedals. But anyway, pressure, again, is easier to memorize on the body, so ideally you should be more consistent, and maybe in a best case scenario, even a little faster, because maybe now you can get closer to that threshold braking without overstepping and locking up your tires. With that said, this is usually a point where we go and we say, well, let's find out if that claim is true. But we kind of already know it's true because we've had the at least pre-production version of the brake performance kit for over a year. So we kind of already know what we're dealing with and we kind of already like it. But there are a couple things that I don't myself necessarily care about what I currently have with the pre-production version. While we do like the kit, I'm not in love with my current setup. My V3s contain a single long green elator spring, and while I prefer having this pre-production elator spring versus not having it, it has made my brake pedal very stiff and resulted in next to no travel. Essentially, my single green spring is essentially what Fanatec would label as very hard, where you combine 2 of the 13mm green springs found in the brake performance kit. While I prefer a stiffer brake, I also prefer more travel, which has resulted in me running the Fanatec CSL Elite pedals instead of the V3s due partially to the greater brake travel. So I want to see if the production version of the brake performance kit can give me a little more travel, but not lose that brake pressure that I like and bring me back to the V3s. Also want to find out if the damper kit on the V3s is really necessary when you have the brake performance kit. I'm wondering this myself, and we've gotten a lot of questions from you guys, so we're gonna go and answer that. So with that said, we've gone and we're all set up to do a test where we go and we walk through different levels of the brake performance kit and combos and try to find which ones work the best. First up was carefully removing the damper kit from the brake pedal, unhooking the brake cylinder, removing the old single green spring with no polyurethane foam, by the way, and replacing it per the instructions with the polyurethane foam this time and 2 lubricated 13mm diameter red springs. The goal of this first test is to see what the brake is like at the soft settings, which aren't exactly like the soft settings in the table because someone didn't look at the table before blowing everything up. Before we get to how this soft setup performed, I do want to note one thing. The green single spring that's been in my V3s for over a year came out quite dirty with some metal shavings on the bottom. I didn't worry about it too much at the time, but we'll return to this topic in a minute. Once buttoned up and mounted back on my Next Level V3 Motion chassis, I took to Zandvoort in both iRacing and Assetto Corsa since the track has a lot of low, medium, and high-speed braking zones for such a short lap. I used these cars and track combos for all variation of the brake kit that we tested, so we had a baseline. I also set the brake resistance in the Fanatec control panel to 75% for all tests to remove any variables on the software side. The two red springs had their pros and cons. The pro was now having some actual travel in the brake. The con was the pressure not quite being where I liked it. Also, I was feeling inconsistency in the brake pedal that was causing me to lock up. It was like the resistance would fluctuate through the throw, and is something I've felt before and not cared for in my V3s. Now, I do want to stress that these inconsistencies in the brake through the throw were pretty minor. These weren't deal breakers or anything, but when you're on the very edge and threshold braking, every little bit does matter. Also want to note that there's a third element that affects the brake feel. We already touched on the brake resistance set up in the Fanatec control panel, and of course the springs you select. But lastly, you have the brake preload screw. The preload screw is the only way to adjust the brake pedal stiffness and travel on the base V3 pedals. On the base set, it can be adjusted between 0 and 5, 5 being the stiffest. Once you install the brake performance kit though, you can't set it to 5 or 4 or even 3 anymore. The best you can do before it really gets tight is around 2, maybe 2.5. And while the max value has decreased, it still makes a difference where you set it at. This resulted in me not only changing out the springs, but trying the springs at both level 1 and 2 on the preload screw to determine the best feel. Moving on to the next test, which swaps out the bottom 13mm diameter red spring for the stiffer 13mm diameter green spring. The pairing of the 13mm green and red spring should result in medium pedal pressure according to the hardness comparison table. But before we get to those results, let's go back and touch on the soft setting springs and what I saw when I actually pulled them out of the brake cylinder. So when I pulled them out, they were very dirty, and not only dirty, but the polyurethane foam was covered in a lot of metal shavings, chips, and that can't be good. I couldn't tell where they were coming from, but they were there and not the best sign. So I cleaned the shavings off the polyurethane foam, then applied a liberal amount of lithium grease to the springs just to be safe, and placed them back in the brake cylinder. Was there now a noticeable difference? Yes, on multiple levels. First off, the brake pressure felt good and more where I wanted it. Also, while the brake throw had decreased some, as it does when you up the pressure, there was still enough there, at least when I had the preload screw at level 1. When I moved it up to level 2, it shortened the throw too much and I was locking up trying to find the sweet spot. But at level 1, I felt in control. And what about the inconsistencies through the brake throw earlier? They were gone. So I had to assume that some of that inconsistency that I was feeling as you went through the brake throw was due to those metal shavings being in there and maybe not enough lubrication. So once I cleaned that up and put more of the lithium grease on, that wasn't an issue. Last but not least was trying out two 13mm diameter green springs for the very hard setup. This is the same setup that's been in my pedals for the past year, but this time I used the polyurethane foam as well to see if there was a difference there. To not much surprise, the pedal was now very hard and had very little travel. Two things I don't care for that much. So call me Goldilocks, because the medium setting of a combo of red and green 13mm diameter springs was perfect for me. And yes, I know I skipped the hard setup, but considering how going from level 1 to 2 on the preload screw at medium was too much of a jump, I doubt I would have liked that better. So now that I dialed in the ClubSport pedals V3 brake settings to 75% in the Fanatec control panel, 13mm diameter red, green, and polyurethane foam inside the brake, and level 1 on the preload screw, it was now time to see if the damper kit made a positive improvement. The brake performance kit makes the damper kit redundant. The only way for the damper to work is to add resistance by reducing travel, and I'm already at a happy medium that I like. Save your money and just pick up the brake performance kit. Lastly, does my newfound brake setup convince me to remove the CSL Elites that I've had on my rig and put the V3s back on? Maybe? Honestly, I'm happy with both brake pedals now, even though they differ. I still enjoy the travel of the CSL Elite pedals. I also enjoy the F1 style mashing of the brake pedal on the V3 now, despite having less travel. It really is a toss-up for me, and I think I'd be happy using either set. In terms of what you, the consumer, should do when it comes to either picking up the V3s or the CSL Elites, I think the decision really comes down to what features that you really value. I mean, both pedals have things that they do better than the others, even though one's cheaper, which, you know, that's a feature for maybe some of you out there who don't want to spend the extra $100 or another $30 on a brake performance kit. But either way, both set of pedals from Fanatec right now are both very good, and both options we would recommend. But if you were to go and pick up the ClubSport pedal V3s, do yourself a favor and get the brake performance kit. It's only $30 or 30 euros, and yes, it would have been nice if it was included when you first bought the pedals and wasn't an extra option, but clearly they had some R&D work to do and didn't quite get out in time. But still, $30, 30 euros isn't bad to take an already good set of pedals and make them very good. So thanks for watching our review of the Fanatec ClubSport Pedals V3 Brake Performance Kit. These names in sim racing, way too long. Hopefully you enjoyed the review. If you did, please give it a like. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Also check out our website, isrtv.com, for the latest reviews, news, and our very popular forums. Reviews such as review for this pedals and the CSLs and all sorts of good stuff to go look at. Also, check out the Amazon affiliate links in the description below. Click on the link, shop through Amazon, buy sim racing products or non-sim racing products. It doesn't cost you a thing, and we get a little bit kicked back. So for John Sable, thanks for watching Inside Sim Racing. See you guys next time.